December's traditionally a month of unboxings here at Diagonal Move, and this December appears to be no different. And today we are looking at Undaunted North Africa. This of course being one of my not quite an unboxing component overview videos, but let's call it an unboxing for the sake of the season. So here we have with them Undaunted North Africa, which is of course the follow-up to Undaunted Normandy, designed by David Thompson and Trevor Benjamin, published by Osprey Games. Nice big box as we can see, and on the back here gives you a sense of everything that's in the box, some of the various tiles and tokens and cards and so on that you have here. It's in June 1940 that the game is set, and there is a long-range desert group and a reconnaissance unit of the British Army is performing behind the lines operations and generally causing a bit of chaos for the Italian forces in Northern Africa. It's a campaign-driven deck-building game according to the back of the box, and it is a tactical scale, and you use cards, siege initiative, bolster forces, control troops on the battlefield. It's a deck-building game, to be honest, with a really cool North Africa theme. And inside the box we have 88 cards, 22 map tiles, 4 dice, 91 tokens, and a scenario booklet. Ages 14 plus, 45 minutes to an hour to play, 2 players, and it is competitive. Okay, so let's have a look at what is actually inside the box. Well, first thing we see is an advert for the original game, Undaunted Normandy. It is, I understand, a entirely standalone game, and there is another advert there for another game from the same publisher. And then we jump straight into the rule books. So we have 2 different books. There is the rule book itself and the somewhat thicker scenario book. We'll get back to those in just a moment. We have a couple of decks of cards. One for the long-range desert group of the British Army and one for the Italians. We have a bunch of these vehicle cards, which we'll again have a closer look at in a minute. There are 4 dice, as it said on the tin, but they're not in faction-specific colours, which seems a slightly missed opportunity to me, but I wonder if they could not get desert yellow in dice. I don't know. Haven't ever looked at that myself. Then we have tokens, counter sheet here, well, token sheet here, with various images and iconography on there, as you might expect. We have some tanks and scout cards and so on, and those pictures are kind of cool. Quite like those. They're same images you'll see repeated throughout the game, and on the back of them we have the what is presumably the disrupted side of both of those, as well as numbers there, which I'm not entirely sure what that does, but then I haven't played the game before. I've skimmed the rules but not fully played the game. And then we have the equivalent of the Italian forces in the British colours. But what I wanted to jump straight into was these tiles. These tiles here are so cool. They're double-sided. You can set them up in various different ways, and this is what makes up the scenario board. And I've just set 9 up here just at random, but there is, as it said in the back of the box, 20 something of them, and they're all double-sided. Various terrain features on there. You've got sort of roads and mountains. There's a castle, presumably a Foreign Legion castle or something of those nature. Then you have various other things. There's an airfield. If you tie these, there's a few with this kind of strip on that actually makes an airfield. So yeah, they're really, really cool. Nice thick cardboard, and they're double-sided, and the scenarios are all based around these tiles. And it's really neat to see this kind of modular system for what is essentially a war game. Yeah, just a few lingering shots there of different things that we can see in the game. Okay, so once I've finished salivating over the wonderful map art, let's have a closer look back at some of the other bits in the game. So we do have some vehicles. I couldn't say if this is a new addition or not to the series, whether whether vehicles were existing in the previous game, but here we have different vehicles with a space for each person. Because one thing that I understand is different about this game compared to the Normandy version is that the scale is now 1 counter per man rather than 1 counter per squad or per quartet of people, I think it was. And each of the sections has a like an action or and so on there, so that presumably has a significant impact of where you place the different characters that you'll be controlling. Because when you look at the tokens, there's a engineer and a gunner and a saboteur and so on, and I imagine they would be skilled in different ways as to which part of the vehicle they are best in. But I don't know that for sure, as I said, not played it, but it certainly at first glance looks like that is a possibility. The tokens themselves are very nice and thick. I think I probably showed those a moment ago, but with a different set of counters and rolls and so on. Presumably these Scorpion's Hero control markers, and the Italian is very similar. Okay, but let's have a quick look at these decks of cards. They're quite nice cards. They're perhaps a little bit thinner than some I've played with recently, but you do have a very quick and easy to read, I suppose, is the purpose behind the cards, really, with the different actions and the various points associated with the actions. I think the number at the top there is an initiative marker, and you play a card for initiative, that kind of thing. And yeah, each of these individual people has a slightly different set of actions. Multiple copies of each person, and I'm assuming that's where the deck building element comes in. The more times you can activate the person, the better, because as you scroll further through the deck, and you get to see some of the officers there as well, but as you get further towards the back, you do have these Fog of War cards, which really don't do anything apart from potentially junk up your hand. But they look very nice, those cards. Very nice indeed. And we have the British equivalent, or the long range desert group equivalent. You've clearly got an officer or two, and then the NCOs, and then the crew members of the vehicles and the different roles that they play. And then some more of those Fog of War cards for the British side. The rulebook itself is quite brightly coloured, well laid out. There's some notes there on the differences between the two games, as well as you see the quite clear itinerary or glossary there of what each individual component of each card is, and then there's an example set up there using those tiles and all the different ways that the tokens and so on can go onto the tiles. Nice clear call out boxes for the different elements, the actions there, quite a lot of actions that you can do with their movement or support, combat, and then there's a nice long example of play as well at the back, as well as some notes and so on, and then a quick reference guide. There are scenarios, and in this scenario book we're given a more detailed description first of what the long range desert group was, and then some examples on how to set up in various charts and tables and how to do it, as well as what the victory means should you win, and then the scenarios. We have a fair few scenarios. some of them look really cool. The way the desert terrain looks, I like that a lot. And I believe these are actually based on actual actions that the Long Range Desert Group actually did during the Second World War. Okay. And then there's a second reference there, presumably for the other player. So that then is Undaunted Normandy. Sorry, it's not Normandy, it's Undaunted North Africa. We do get quite a bit of stuff in here. I think there's going to be a ton of replayability due to these tiles. And it's nice to see a war game that does feature what looks like some real different, nice components, real good quality components, it seems to me, just from this first look. Okay, thank you very much. This has been Neil from Diagonal Move, and I will see you next time.